The Singapore Budget 2014 was unveiled today, and in a special edition of News 5 tonight, we're giving you all the details of the biggest announcements affecting you. Well, first, let's focus on one of the highlights, the Pioneer Generation Package to recognize the contributions of first-generation Singaporeans. This refers to those who were at least 16 years old in 1965, the year Singapore became independent. The government will set aside $8 billion under a new Pioneer Generation Fund, and all those eligible for the special benefits will receive them for life, regardless of their income.
It was perhaps the most anticipated announcement in this year's budget, a move by the government to honour and recognise some 450,000 Singaporeans who have contributed to nation building during Singapore's post-independent years. In a significant move, the measure specific to the Pioneer Generation Package will not be means-tested.
These special benefits that we are providing the Pioneer Generation will not be differentiated by income, because our objective is to honour the contributions of this whole generation.
He said the total cost in nominal terms will be slightly over $9 billion. With accumulated interest over time, Mr. Tharman said money in the Pioneer Generation Fund will be enough to pay for the full projected cost of the package. Now, sustainability is, of course, an issue with the package having to pay out those eligible for life. But Singapore is in a good fiscal position, and Mr. Tharman said it's prudent and right to set aside money now while there are sufficient resources to do so.
With this fund, we assure the Pioneer Generation that Singapore will honour our commitment to them, regardless of future economic or fiscal circumstances. The fund also ensures that budgets in subsequent years can focus on the needs and challenges of the future for all Singaporeans.
There are three components to the package: outpatient care, MediSave top-ups, and lifelong subsidies for MediShield Life. Under outpatient care, those with common illnesses or chronic conditions like diabetes and hypertension will get 50% off the net bill at all specialist outpatient clinics or polyclinics on top of subsidies.
For Pioneer Generation members, it amounts to 75% to 85% subsidy for treatment at the SOCs. Similarly, the Pioneer Generation will receive an additional 50% off their subsidized bills at polyclinics.
All eligible will also be put on the Community Health Assist Scheme or CHAS. The scheme provides subsidies for medical and dental care at participating general practitioners and dental clinics. There will be a new Pioneer Generation Disability Assistance Scheme for those with moderate to severe disabilities. This group or their caregivers will receive cash of $1,200 annually. These subsidies will come into effect from September. The additional CHAS benefits will be implemented in January 2015. On MediSave top-ups, those eligible will receive annual payouts of between $200 and $800. Older cohorts will get more. These top-ups will be paid out from August this year. As for MediShield Life premiums, Mr. Tharman said there will be special subsidies to ensure premiums are affordable for the Pioneer Generation. The target is ambitious: to fully cover the MediShield Life premium for those aged 80 and above after premium subsidies and MediSave top-ups are factored in. This will apply also to those who are currently not covered under MediShield. For the younger cohort, for example, those aged 70 this year and already on MediShield, the aim is to cover half of their new premium for MediShield Life after factoring in subsidies and MediSave top-ups. The MediShield Life subsidies will be implemented in end 2015 when MediShield Life is rolled out. For those who miss out in the criteria but may have good claims, Mr. Tharman said there will be a panel set up to assess appeals on a case-by-case basis. And for the citizens aged 55 and above, they'll get MediSave top-ups of between $100 and $200 every year over the next 5 years. The less well-off will get more. This initiative is expected to cost the government some $440 million over 5 years.
Well, on a broader front, all workers will get more money in their MediSave accounts from a 1 percentage point rise in CPF employer contribution rates starting next year. And with this, elderly Singaporeans will be allowed to use a portion of MediSave more flexibly across a range of outpatient treatments.
To help employers manage the 1 percentage point increase, The government will provide them a 50% offset through a one-year temporary employment credit. Employers will receive an offset of 0.5 percentage points of wages up to the CPF salary ceiling of $5,000.
We deliberated on this increased contribution rate carefully, taking into account future needs. Compared to a decade ago, life expectancy has increased and will very likely move up further in Singapore. The demand for healthcare services has also increased as advances in medical care become available.
The government is also doing more to keep outpatient care affordable for lower and middle-income Singaporeans. Currently, all subsidized patients enjoy a 50% subsidy for specialist outpatient clinic services. Subsidies will be raised to 70% for the lower income and 60% for the middle income from September this year. So consider someone in his 50s in the lower income group suffering from a chronic condition like hypertension or high cholesterol. So these changes would mean reducing his SOC charges by almost half, from $480 to $265 once the subsidies for services and medication are implemented. Now, this subsidy is expected to benefit some 400,000 patients. Mr. Tharman also assured the middle and lower income groups that their MediShield Life premiums will be kept affordable.
First, we will provide them with significant permanent subsidies so that they can fully pay for their remaining premiums out of their regular MediSave contributions. We will also provide further assistance for those in financial difficulty. Secondly, to ease the transition into MediShield Life, we will provide a subsidy to offset premium increases for the first few years, including for those who are from the higher income group.
Details of the subsidies will be finalized after the MediShield Life Review Committee completes its work, which is expected to be this June.
Now, on top of that 1 percentage point increase in CPF employer contribution rates going into MediSave for all workers, CPF contribution rates for older workers aged above 50 will rise between 0.5 and 1.5 percentage points.
Reach Field Security employs some 600 workers. About 30% of them are more than 50 years old. The small and medium enterprise is one of many that will have to raise Central Provident Fund or CPF contribution rates for workers under Budget 2014 measures. For those aged above 50 to 55, rates will increase by 1.5 percentage points, with 1% from the employer and 0.5% from the employee. For those aged above 55 to 65, rates will increase by 0.5 percentage points, entirely from the employer.
I think the government has been very sensitive to the needs of the business community. The rates proposed are quite reasonable, especially with the timeline of implementation being January 2015. It's easier for business to absorb the additional costs.
The increase in employer contribution rates will go to the special account, with the employee's contribution going into the ordinary account. So as a result of changes to contribution rates under Budget 2014, by the time a 50-year-old worker earning $3,000 monthly hits 65, he or she will have $6,500 more in retirement savings.
Our efforts at improving the employability of older workers are showing results. The employment rate of older residents aged 50 to 64 has risen steadily from 56% in 2003 to 70% in 2013. We had made a commitment in 2012 to give older workers aged 50 to 55 the same contribution rates as their younger counterparts.
Budget 2014 takes another step towards that. To help employers adjust, the government will provide an offset of up to 0.5% of wages for Singaporean workers above 50 years old, earning up to $4,000 monthly for 1 year.
Next, another area of focus, social safety nets. Apart from the healthcare subsidies for the lower income that we've been telling you about, schemes were announced to help the disabled, and there are more efforts to improve social mobility in Singapore. Students from lower and middle income families will get bigger subsidies for education at both ends of the spectrum, at preschool and tertiary level.
At the preschool level, more help will come through an improved kindergarten fee assistance scheme, or KIFAS. Today, families who earn up to $3,000 a month have to pay as much as $75 every month to send a child to kindergarten. But this will be cut to just $3. For a lower middle-income household making $4,800 a month, it's a drop from $130 to $85. KIFAS will apply to all preschools with anchor operator status and MOE kindergartens, and no longer restricted to those under the PAP Community Foundation. As for tertiary education, bursaries will extend to cover students from 2/3 of all Singaporean households. That's because the qualifying income ceiling for ITE, polytechnic and university bursaries will be raised from a per capita monthly household income of $1,700 to $1,900. For university undergraduates, those from the lowest 1/3 of households will see their bursaries increase from $2,900 to $3,600 a year. For middle-income students, the increase is from $2,150 to $2,600. Polytechnic and ITE students from middle-income families will also get more help. Details will come at the Education Ministry's budget debate, but Mr. Tharman said ITE bursaries for lower-income students will be significantly higher than their fees to help defray living costs.
We are driving important initiatives to help our lower-income families aspire for themselves and enable every Singaporean to contribute to a better society. It is a determined, multi-year effort to keep up social mobility and do all we can to avoid becoming a society of permanent tiers.
Also announced today, 170,000 Singaporeans who are supporting their parents will enjoy further tax relief in the year of assessment 2015. Currently, the relief can only be claimed by one child, but this will be changed to allow sharing of parent relief. For those living with their parents, parent relief will be increased to $9,000. The relief will also be increased for those who don't live with their parents. The amount of relief for those living with a handicapped parent will go up to $14,000. Those not living with a handicapped parent will get relief of $10,000, up from $8,000. Approximately 800,000 HDB households will also receive a one-off GST voucher, YouSave Special Payment. This will be paid out on top of the regular GST voucher called YouSave Payment. The amount they get will range from $260 for one-room flat dwellers to $90 for those living in executive flats. Well, about 675,000 Singaporeans aged 55 and above will receive a one-off goods and services tax voucher of up to $250. The amount ranges from $100 to $250 depending on their assessable income. Small and medium enterprises, or SMEs, are getting a boost from the budget. The government is extending and deepening support for them to invest in innovation and skills so that they can sustain and step up restructuring efforts. There will be more tax incentives for innovation, and new industrial spaces will be created to cluster companies within the same industry to encourage pooling of resources. SMEs will also get more help to venture overseas. The government will double the maximum loan quantum under the Internationalization Finance Scheme to $30 million. And the Productivity and Innovation Credit Scheme, which expires next year, will be extended to 2018. It's also being sweetened to PIC+.
Under the current PIC scheme, the expenditure cap is $400,000 per year for each qualifying activity, and the cap can be combined for a total of $1.2 million across 3 years. That's the current scheme. I will raise the expenditure cap for SMEs to $600,000 from year of assessment 2015. This means that SMEs can now claim tax deductions for up to $1.8 million in expenditure.
And SMEs gave us their reactions to today's announcements.
Singaporean-owned franchise Genki Sushi started tapping the Productivity and Innovation Credit Scheme in 2011 to set up its second outlet in Chinatown. This is different from its first store, as the new outlet boasts of some high-tech savvy technology for dine-in customers.
After I'm done ordering my food via the iPad, the food is delivered to me via the Kosuku or direct delivery system. And once I'm done eating, I can insert the empty plates into the plate clearing system, which then transports the used plates to the washing point. And Genki Sushi says they only require 1/4 of the usual man hours because of this.
Genki says it welcomes the extension of the PIC scheme.
We are happy to know that the government is going to continue supporting companies with the intention of using technology. It's a useful scheme, but the government's intention is not to provide funds so that you can start your business. It is a fund to encourage people to use technology in our current labor environment so that it can help us cope with that labor shortage. Yeah.
Some SMEs in the manufacturing industry say a longer term of assistance could offset a longer gestation period.
The productivity improvement program cannot be implemented overnight. It is kind of tedious, complex, and costly. We need maybe a couple of years, even 3 years to implement it and see the success of that implementation.
As for the PIC Plus scheme, industry bodies say it might favor some more than others.
The PIC and the PIC Plus scheme tells me that the stronger and the more profitable companies will get more help, and the remaining SMEs will still get help, but just not so much help. So it sends a signal to the smaller ones or the ones that are not so profitable to ask themselves how they are going to strengthen themselves to work harder.
The Association of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises says there are still some areas, such as rents and the needs of smaller and micro SMEs, that need to be addressed.
The government will also invest $500 million over 3 years in what's described as a major push to help SMEs adopt infocom technology solutions to raise productivity.
Faster computers, new software technology, or better digital equipment. These are some tools that will help firms boost their productivity. And the government is setting aside $500 million to get SMEs on the information superhighway and adopt ICT solutions.
ICT is transforming almost every industry internationally. While the public sector and our larger corporations have been actively leveraging ICT, we have to help our SMEs step up adoption of ICT solutions.
The government will subsidize 70% of the costs of adopting proven ICT products and services. It's expected to extend the reach of current sector-specific schemes to another 10,000 SMEs. The second initiative under the program seeks to encourage SMEs to pilot innovative technology solutions that are new to Singapore. 80% of the qualifying costs for firms, capped at $1 million, will be funded by the government over the next 3 years. To help SMEs take advantage of cloud computing and data analytics solutions, the government will subsidize the firm's cost of fiber subscription plan of at least 100 megabits per second, as well as support the implementation of wireless at SG at their business premises. Some observers expect these measures to have positive economic spin-offs.
Say a SME, decides to upgrade its office productivity tool. It's deciding to, get more, high-power computers, for example, and then also the software. So companies that are selling these products and services is going to benefit. Now, in terms of telcos, absolutely, because, one of the category talks about the higher speed connectivity. So, yes, it's about then SMEs, subscribing to fast speed broadband. So that's definitely going to have a very, very positive economic spin-off.
To ensure more buildings have the facilities to bring fibre broadband to their business tenants, the government will subsidise 80% of the one-time infrastructure enhancement costs of up to $200,000 per qualifying building.
More news on Budget 2014 after the break, so don't go away. Starting today, duties on alcohol will increase by 25% and taxes on cigarettes by 10%. And from July, duties on lotteries will go up by 5% of gross bets. The finance minister announced all this in the budget today, saying it's to keep pace with inflation, but is also in line with the government's social objectives. The increase in alcohol duties is the first in exactly a decade. Distributors and entertainment outlets say the move is sudden and will hit them hard. The cost will likely be passed on to consumers. And if the full burden of tax is passed on, a can of beer at a coffee shop could cost about 20 cents more, while a glass of wine at a restaurant could cost nearly $2 more. And for more on the budget, catch Singapore Tonight on Channel News Asia at 10 p.m. Good night.